Week 5 of the NFL has just wrapped up, so let's take a look at your 15 matchups for the week as we're almost one-third of the way through the NFL season. It starts with Thursday Night Football. The 49ers stay undefeated and knock off the Washington Commanders 38-24, but this one came at a loss for the 49ers. Brock Purdy with a finger injury out 10 to 12 weeks. That's huge for San Francisco. So Sam Darnold will be the starter. He threw for 3 touchdowns in this game. Christian McCaffrey had a huge game, 146 rushing yards and a touchdown. Sam Howell, 237, 2 TDs, starting to look pretty good for Washington. Second game in London this year, the Vikings win 30-14 and knock off the Titans. It was a game for the Vikings offense. Kirk Cousins, 319 and 3 touchdowns. Had a monster day. Justin Jefferson, 129 of those in a touchdown. Jordan Addison looked good. Will Levis, 223, a touchdown, also an interception. DeAndre Hopkins, 92 receiving yards. Derrick Henry had a touchdown on the ground. And Nick Westbrook-Akine had a touchdown through the air. How about this? The Dallas Cowboys knocking off the Philadelphia Eagles in Arlington to win by 11 and have control of the NFC East. Prescott threw for 285 and 3 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown. He had all 4 of Dallas's touchdowns today. CeeDee Lamb racking up 1 against the Eagles. Devontae Smith had 2 for Philly as Jalen Hurts had 2 passing touchdowns, 210 yards to the air, and only had 7 incompletions. Battle of the Cats in Detroit where the Lions win 35-21 and knock off the Jaguars. Another slow start for the Lions for the second straight week, but to get the job done. Goff, 298, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Montgomery, another 100-yard rushing game with a touchdown. Jamison Williams did good again. The Lions are one of just 2 teams undefeated. We'll get to the previous other 2 teams in a moment. Trevor Lawrence, 306, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And I mentioned one of those undefeated teams. The Ravens fall to the Bengals 24-17. The Bengals were 0-3 to start the season. They've won their last 2 and look back in business. 289 and 2 touchdowns for Joe Burrow, one of which to Jamar Chase, who had a day and a half against the Ravens secondary. 10 receptions, 137 yards, and a touchdown. Jackson, 226 and 2 touchdowns, one of which going to Likely. The Bengals, they stopped that rushing attack of the Ravens. One of the NFL's oldest rivalries sees the Packers still owning the Bears, 27-10. And the Packers had a slow start as well, but they were able to get the job done. 216, 2 touchdowns from Love, who was 50% through the air. Tucker Kraft, the rookie, had a touchdown. Darnell Mooney did good. He had 69 receiving yards and a touchdown. And then Justin Fields, 161, 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions. The Bears have yet to win a game. Packers are 4-1. And then the other previous undefeated team in overtime, the Patriots knock off the Bills 22-16. The Patriots have won 3 in a row and are 3-2, 1 game back of the division lead. Mac Jones, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a pick. Juju Smith-Schuster, his first touchdown as a Patriot, 58 receiving yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen, the loss of Stephon Diggs proved costly, just 189 and a touchdown. The Browns had their best game of the year against the Giants. They won 27-13. The Giants, their only touchdown came off a punt return for a touchdown by Gray. And then Daniel Jones threw 3 interceptions, so the defense was huge for Cleveland, who had a pick 6. And then Deshaun Watson, 229, 2 touchdowns. His best game as a Brown. They go to 2-3. Giants slip to 2-3 and have lost 2 games in a row now. And then you have this game, the Saints blow out the Colts 30-3 in a huge win for them. They've now won 2 in a row and are 1 game back for the division lead all of a sudden. Carr, 268, 2 touchdowns. He's had a monster season through the air for the Saints. Anthony Richardson, 172, 2 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor couldn't get going on the ground. It was just bad for Indianapolis, who could only put up 3 in this game. But the Saints starting to rock, and they have a big game against the Raiders in Derek Carr's revenge game next week. Battle of the number 1 and number 2 overall picks. C.J. Stroud knocks off Bryce Young 26-14. 277 and 2 touchdowns. The Texans, they had a rough start in week 1 and week 2, but they have found offensive life the past couple of weeks. They're 2-3. Bryce Young won 95 and a touchdown. Panthers slipped to 0-5, one of the few defeated teams in the league who've yet to get a win. The Bucs 42-20 blow out the Chargers in the 4:00 slate. A huge win for Tampa Bay, who gets a 3-2. And how about the two receiving performances? Mike Evans, 12 receptions, 149 and 2 touchdowns. Cade Otton with the hat trick as Baker Mayfield threw for 5 touchdowns and 356 yards. Easton Stick, 241. Austin Eckler had 112 on the ground, and Will Dissly had the only 2 receiving touchdowns for the Chargers. A rainy day in Miami sees the Dolphins winning 28-16 in a very weird game against the Jets. They had a blocked extra point return for 2 in this game. Breece Hall, though, left the game with a concussion and a shoulder injury that's not on there. He's out for 2 weeks. Tua 219 and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert had a good day on the ground and another good day for River Craycraft. The Dolphins, thanks to the Bills' loss, now lead the division. America's Game of the Week, Patrick Mahomes is back and the Chiefs win by 7 over the Rams. A rematch of Super Bowl IV has the Chiefs winning 24-17. Stafford 219 and a touchdown. Mahomes had a rushing touchdown in this game along with 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce had 82 receiving yards on 7 receptions. Kansas City 4-1. The Rams slip to 3-2 and now are 2 games behind the 49ers. Sunday Night Football saw the Falcons beating the Broncos 20-14. An interesting primetime game here. And Desmond Ridder threw for 202. Bijan Robinson had a touchdown, and Jesse Bates, the former Bengal, took it to the house on a 40-yard pick six. Marvin Mims had a 70-yard touchdown in this game. Russell Wilson, 241, 1 touchdowns, but 2 picks against a weaker Falcons defense is pretty concerning. And then Monday Night Football, another overtime game that ended with the same score, 22-16. The Steelers knock off the Seahawks and go to 4-1. Kenny Pickett, 214, 2 touchdowns. George Pickens had the 68-yarder in overtime to win the game. Geno Smith, 283 and a touchdown. DK Metcalf had a good game. And Pittsburgh hanging on and slipping to 4-1. The Seahawks, 3-2. All of a sudden, they play the 49ers next week. That'd be a huge game. And then we start the bye week teams with the Cardinals and the Raiders. Those 2 teams going on bye this week. They'll be back in action in week 6. And then here are the standings. The Dolphins and the Chiefs sit on top of the AFC along with the Steelers at 4-1. Jacksonville 2-3 in a 4-way tie for the division lead. Colts, Titans, and Texans all also 2-3. Buffalo and Baltimore 4-1, and the Patriots have the final playoff spot in the AFC. This is also a reminder before we get to the NFC standings. Super Bowl Sweepstakes document is in the description below. Fill that out to be a part of the Super Bowl 8 experience. Lions and 49ers now just the only 2 undefeated teams left, with Dallas at 4-1, Tampa Bay 3-2, Packers at 4-1 looking strong, Seahawks and Rams at 3-2, with the Eagles and the Vikings just beneath, looking to try and sneak into the playoffs. This is ASC signing off.